Okay, final review, Unit 4, numbers 1 through 25. I heard number 9 multiple times. Any others? 10 and 12? Yes? All right. Number 9, don't forget to check your, you should be checking your answers. Y equals cosine 3x minus pi. Is that correct? All right, what is the amplitude? Period. 2 pi over b. B being the coefficient of x. Sometimes it's factored out, sometimes it's left in. What is b in this case and it's not 1? 3. 2 pi over 3 is your period length. Is there a shift going in the rightward, leftward direction? Yes? Okay. How do I find it? I cannot just say it's pi. What do we have to do first? Set the inside equal to 0. 3x minus pi equals 0. 3x equals pi. What does x equal? Pi over 3. Is there any shift going up or down? Yes or no? No. Okay, so the start, since there is a shift, horizontal shift, the start is always going to be your shift, the pi over 3. And how do I find my end? Do you guys remember what two things I add together? The period and the shift, right? Your start, which is pi over 3, plus your period length, which is 2 pi over 3, equals what? 3 pi over 3, which I'm going to leave so there's a common denominator. Yes, I realize that reduces to 1 pi, but I'm going to leave it so there's a common denominator with my start. Okay. Questions? Okay. 1 over 3. 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 3. Okay, my start is pi over 3. My end is 3 pi over 3. Now remember, to find the middle, you add as long as your denominators are the same, you add the top numbers and cut them in half. What is 3 plus 1? 4 cut in half. 2 pi over 3. Yes? Now when you check it in the back, does it even have these quarter ones labeled? No. How do you find it though? Same way, 2 plus 1 and cut in half. And I've always said it's okay to use decimals within the fractions. So what's 2 plus 1? 3 cut in half. Anyone? So 1.5 pi over 3. What's 2 plus 3? 5. And 5 cut in half. Got it? Yes? All right. And this is the cosine graph, and it's positive. And we know cosine's the cup shape, which means it starts at its max, and then has a 0, then a minimum, a 0, and back to the max. Now when you check your answers in the back, it has this labeled as pi over 3 and this as pi. Is pi equivalent to 3 pi over 3? Yes. Say it again. Oh, yes, yes, yes. We've talked about that. When you add these two, 1 plus 2 is, 2 plus 1 is 3. Pi over 3 times 1/2 is 3 pi over 6. And this one here you can write as 5 pi over 6. Okay. Questions on number 9? All right. Number 10. y equals 2 cosine 2 parentheses x minus pi over 2. Where do the zeros occur in the first period for the following functions? Your choice. I can show you both ways. One way is the graphing way, the graphing method like we've always done. And the other way was the algebraic way where you set the equation equal to 0 and actually solve algebraically. Does anyone have a preference on which method I start with? Algebraically? Okay, so we said equal to 0. 2 cosine 2 parentheses x minus pi over 2. What can I divide by? Is that going to get rid of both of these 2's or just the leading coefficient 2? Just the one out front, not the one there. So 2 is gone. And what's 0 divided by 2? Still 0. Do you want to distribute the 2 now, later, or leave it? Now, distribute it now or just leave it? Now, 2x minus what? 2 pi over 2 is just pi. Okay. So everybody, does anybody have any questions so far? All right. When we continue this, does anybody remember what was done next? Because we're not used to solving it with this. I used something. Not the inverse. We are kind of going to use that. What is that? The zero product property. I couldn't use it here because it's not cosine times, it's cosine of. I used the substitution. Theta equals 2x minus pi. Because this is something I can solve. Cosine theta equals 0. Is that something you all know how to do? Yes or no? Cosine theta equals 0. This up here, it's a little rougher on the eyes, where this is easier for us to solve.
Is there any way that you could add pi and then do double equals?
You can't. You could have done that on one of the other ones, but not on this one because... Exactly. Yep. Okay, guys. So, give me the 2 angles. Where is cosine 0? There's 2 places on your unit circle within one period. 90 and 270.
Like, what is the...
What is the what? Theta?
So how do you figure out where it is? Well, there's no theta when cosine equals 0.
That's what we did.
No, there's no theta. There's no cosine of theta. How did you get 90 and 270?
I used substitution,
Yeah.
and I put it in the spot where 2x minus pi used to be. And then I just asked cosine of what angle is 0. And if you go to your unit circle, it's 0, 1, and 0, negative 1. So it happens at 90 and 270. Yeah? So I'm going to solve 2 equations. 2x minus pi equals 90, and 2x minus pi equals 270. So here's a suggestion I have. First off, I need to convert either these 2 to radians or pi to a degree. My suggestion would be look at your test, look at the multiple choice answers. If they're in radians, then convert these to radians. If they're degrees, then convert that to degrees. I'm looking at the answers and they're in radians. So I'm going to convert these 2 down here. So what is 90? Pi over and 270? Now, if you're like, hey, I don't want to work with the fractions, could you convert it to degrees and then change it to radians at the end? Yes, totally up to you. All right, so I'm going to plug it back in. So I'm going to have pi over 2 equals 2x minus pi. Pi over 2 equals 2x minus pi. Add your pi, divide by 2. Or multiply everything by 2 right now to get rid of your fractions. Your choice. Do you guys have a preference on how I do it? I said what you could do was add the pi, common denominator it, and then divide by 2. Or clear it right now by multiplying everything by 2. add in common denominator. So plus, is 1 pi equivalent to 2 pi over 2? Why would I write it as 2 pi over 2? Common denominator, what's pi over 2 plus 2 pi over 2? 3 pi over 2 equals 2x. I want to get rid of the 2, so I divide what to both sides? Is dividing by 2 equivalent but to multiplying by 1/2? Gone and gone, and x equals 3 pi over what? Can anybody look at, this is only one part way done. We only have one more piece to do. Looking at the answers, is that one of the answers? Yes. All right, what's the second piece that we still have to do? The 3 pi over 2. So then we have 3 pi over 2 equals the theta, which was 2x minus pi. I'm going to do this one with clearing just because I did the other one without. When I clear, I multiply everything by what? 2, gone, and I distribute. 3 pi equals 4x minus 2 pi. What do I add to the other side? And what does that give me? 5 pi equals 4x. Divide both sides by 4. What does x equal? And was that the other answer? Those of you that have checked already. Was it 3 pi over 4 and 5 pi over 4? Yes. Now, some of you may feel like, oh, I don't like that method. I'd rather graph. Anybody feel like they would rather graph? No? You'd rather use this? And you can't really say that one way is easier because this does take some work to do. So does graphing. It's just a matter of preference. Yes?
If you do that method, is it possible to get a fake answer because it lies outside of the first period?
Good question. When you're solving right here, he said when you're doing it this way, is it possible to get like an extraneous solution that lies outside of the period? Right here, when I ask the question, how many places is cosine of what angle is 0? Within the first period. I don't know if you heard it, but I did say it. Because is cosine of an angle is 0, does that happen in multiple places? Could you go around multiple times and get 0? Over and over and over and over. So within one period, it's just 90 and 270. So that's how you restrict yourself, is in the get-go. When you're working the backwards piece, ask yourself in one period. Good question. All right. Are we good with, does anyone want to see the graphing, or were you guys okay with the algebraic? Does anyone want to see the graphing method for number 10 instead of the algebraic? No, you guys are okay with this? Yeah, right here you could have just in your head said, okay, well, I don't know what this is, but cosine of what angle is 0? So just kind of in your head, imagine all of this. I don't know what this is, but I know whatever this is, it has to be 0, the cosine of that angle. So you would get 90 and 270 equal the 2x minus pi. It's the same thing as substitution, it's just without the extra step. But then again, you would convert your 90 or your 90 and 270. Got it? All right. Questions? Okay, the next one I have is number 12. Are we ready for number 12? Was number 12 that tricky one? Y equals sine. Did anybody get this one by now? No one did? All right, can you guys double check that I wrote it correctly? Yes? Okay. Amp. What's your amplitude? 1. Period. 2 pi over 1 or 2 pi divided by pi over 3? Pi over 3. Do you guys see that is your B? Okay. 2 pi times 3 over pi. What does your period end up reducing to? So your period length is 6. All right. Your horizontal shift. I've had a few kids, as I walked around, said the horizontal shift was negative pi over 3. Can anybody explain where that mistake is? Or where they got the negative pi over 3? Right here, right. Right here they just said, oh, negative pi over 3, but you have to set this whole thing equal to 0. Pi over 3x plus pi over 3 equals 0. Pi over 3x equals negative pi over 3. Multiply both sides by 3 over pi. 3 over pi. Gone, gone, gone. What does x equal? Negative 1. Is there a vertical shift going up and down? No. What is my start? Negative 1. And how do I find my end? Start plus what? Period, which equals 5. All right. I'm going to put those in really light. 2, 3, 4. Because that's too many points anyway, and I'm not going to use them all. That was just to get my spacing out. All right. Remember we've talked about right minus left. What's 5 take away negative 1? What's 5 take away negative 1? And whatever you get should be your period length. I heard 6, and is 6 your period length? Yes? All right. Middle point, 5 plus negative 1 is what? 4? And what's 4 cut in half? Okay. What's 2 plus, I'm going to scooch that back over where I had it. Okay. What is 5 plus 2? 7 cut in half? 3.5. So I'm going to erase these extra markings there so I don't get confused. What's negative 1 plus 2? 1 cut in half? 0.5. So I'm going to erase that extra marking there. So this one's a little tricky because 0 is not one of our 5 key points. It's negative 1, 0.5, 2, 3.5, and 5. And it is regular sign. Is that right? Is that this one here? Okay. Regular sign is the snake shape or the cup shape? Okay. So it starts at 0. And then the next key point is a maximum. And here's the mistake kids make. They put this and they go to the maximum. Is 0 one of my key points? No. So I go up to the 0.5, go to my maximum. 0, minimum, 0. And then you do your hill and your valley. Any questions? And I don't even know, did they ask you to graph? I don't even know what they were asking you here. I just graphed it. Zeros. Okay, since I did the other one the algebraic way and I'm doing this one the graphic way, how many zeros do we have? 3. What are they? Negative 1, 2, and 5. I shouldn't have just assumed it was graphing, but it's a good review anyway because you will need to remember how to graph these type of problems. Would anybody rather see this the graphic way? I mean the algebraic way? No? You guys don't need to see it algebraically? Yes? Okay. Algebraically, if they're asking for the zeros, you set it equal to 0. Pi over 3x plus pi over 3. Substitution, theta equals the pi over 3x plus pi over 3. 0 equals sine of x. I'm sorry, not x, but sine of what? Theta. Please stop the talking, ladies. There's two places where sine is 0. What are they? Gentlemen, I need you guys paying attention. Whatever you're messing with, please put it away. What two places is sine 0? 0, 180? Are you guys okay if we call it 0 and pi only because these are radians? Yeah? Does everyone agree that 0 and pi are the two places where sine is 0? Okay. 0 equals, that's what theta equals. So 0 equals pi over 3x plus pi over 3. And my other equation is going to be pi equals pi over 3x plus pi over 3. Here's the 0 answer, here's the pi answer, and here's what theta was originally. Theta was a pi over 3 plus x, or pi over 3x plus pi over 3, and pi over 3x plus pi over 3. All right, how shall I solve this first one? I'll leave it up to you guys. Subtract the pi over 3. This one actually isn't that bad, because once you get that, negative pi over 3 equals pi over 3x. What do you multiply both sides by? Um, 3 pi? 3 over pi? And what do you end up with? X equals negative 1. Yes? Go back and do, you want to see 11 done algebraically? Is that what you're asking? Yeah, let me write that number down. Yeah. Okay, and then here you subtract negative pi over 3. I'm going to write this as 3 pi over 3. Is that equivalent to 1? Okay. What's 3 pi over 3? Take away 1 pi over 3. Equals pi over 3 x. And you multiply both sides by 3 over pi, and x equals what? 2. Now what happened with this one the way we did here? Did we end up with an extra answer? Yes, because we're doing here 1 period between 0 to 2 pi, where for this one, 1 period was what? 6. So whether you're doing, even if you're doing it algebraically, you still have to think of your period length. And think about, if I'm going from 1, if my period length is 6, going from negative 1 to 5, will I need another place where there's a 0? And if you think about it, yes, you would. So you'd go around one more time, and what would be your other 0? You guys gave me 0 pi. What would the other one be? 2 pi? So 2 pi equals pi over 3. X plus pi over 3. And can you guys solve that one on your own? Subtract, divide, and when you get that, the answer is going to most likely come out, or should come out to be the 5. Make sense? All right, so if you are doing algebraically, you do have to take that into account. All right.
That means I'd have to do 0 and 360?
Yes. So 0, 180, and 360. Yep. Okay. Questions? Yes. All right. 11, you said you wanted to see 11 algebraically? Is that what you said? Number 11 and what? No? Okay. Number 11. Y equals tangent of x minus pi over 3. Where do the zeros occur in the first period? Okay. I will do this one algebraically, but I just want to remind you guys that you do need to know how to graph tangents. If you've forgotten, we need to go over it sometime. All right. Where are the zeros? Is that what it's asking? Are you guys okay if I just put theta in right now? Okay. Looking at your unit circle or in your head, when is tangent 0? Y over x. When is it 0 over 1? 0 and 180? Well, it depends on what your period is. What's the period for a tangent graph? What's the period here? Pi over b. And what's b? And when you split it, it goes between what? Negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2. So which answer would I be using? What is between negative 90 to positive 90? Just the 0. Do you guys see that? So 0 equals x minus pi over 3. Add your pi over 3. What does x equal? Pi over 3. Make sense? You don't like it? And remember, guys, when you graph just one tangent graph, whether it's shifting or not, I'm just going to pretend it's shifted this way. Do you agree just one tangent grid should have only 1 0? One tangent graph within one period should have only 1 0. 1 0. How do you know which one to use? Find your period. It's negative pi over 2 to pi over, well, your period length is pi, but your graph is graphed between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2 with some shifting, and then you go from there. Got it?
So tan is always pi.
So tan is always pi over b for your period length. Yeah.
And
Cotangent, same thing.
cotangent is pi b.
Pi over b.
But if cotangent is from 0 to starts at
Right, that's because we don't do the splitting piece here. That splitting we would not have done if it was cotangent. All right. I'm not going to go over unit, well, if we need unit 4, I'm only going to go over very few at the end. So to go over as much as we can today, any other unit 4 questions? Even if you're glancing through towards the end and seeing, oh, I don't remember how to do that one at the end. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I don't remember. You can pick some of those as well. Did I hear you say number 16?
Yeah.
Y equals 2 secant of x. Where do the asymptotes occur in the first period for each function? I'm going to graph it just to review, and then I'll talk about how to do it algebraically. What do we think of? What graph do we think of? Y equals 2 cosine of x. What is the amplitude? What is the period? 2 pi. All right, and it's cosine, so cosine has a maximum, a 0, a minimum, a 0, and a maximum. Does everyone agree that's what my cosine graph looks like? Yes. And then I lightly sketch, and some of you may not even need to lightly sketch anymore. You already know what it's going to look like. Where do the asymptotes occur? On the zeros, because the reciprocal of 0 is undefined, and secant's the reciprocal of cosine. So your asymptotes will always be at the zeros. So the algebraic way is taking this and setting it equal to, or setting this one equal to 0. Taking this and set it equaling to 0, and then those are your asymptotes. I'm going to finish graphing though. I'm going to erase, actually before I erase, I'm going to use my complete U. Do you agree this is the only complete U that I have in the cosine graph?
Yes.
And the U's opening upward, so when I go to this point, do I go up or down? Down. Okay, do you agree this is a half U right here? Yes? And so when I go to the dot, do I go up or down? This one's going down. I go up always towards the asymptotes. Look, notice down here I went towards the asymptotes, towards the asymptotes. All right, here going up or down? Up towards the asymptotes, and everything on the inside gets erased. I know they did not ask you to graph this one, but I just graphed it to review. But the answer are your asymptotes, pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. Questions on that one?
So you said to figure it out without graphing, you said equal to 0?
The reciprocal function, the cosine graph. So you would do 0 equals 2 cosine x.
So 17 and 0 equals sine 3x. Right?
What was that?
For 17, would it be 0 equals sine 3x, and then would I divide everything by 3?
You don't divide anything by 3. That's the one where you go 3 times around.
Oh, okay.
All right, got it? But that one's within one period, so you may not have to go as many times around. I'll do it with, I'll go ahead and try it and see what you come up with. Or you know what you could do? You said you were going to do 0 equals y. What number was it?
17.
0 equals
Sine 3x.
sine 3x. Just do 0 equals sine theta. Do it that way. And don't do the 3 times around.
Which is it?
There's 2 places.
0 and 180.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but they changed it to
What number was this?
0 different.
What number was it?
17.
I'm checking.
It was 0 pi over 3 and 2 pi over 3. Or am I looking at the wrong one?
No, you're looking at the right one. How many places is sine 0? Yeah, but we only get 2 of them, right? You only got 2 of them. Yes, the reason is because with the sine graph, show you. It goes from 0 to 2 pi. So the 0 and the 2 pi's count, the zeros counted twice, 0, pi, and 2 pi. So you do have to go around 3, the total of. So when you're finding your zeros, what did you get? You got 0, 180, and go all the way to the end again. It would be 360, and then divide them all by 3. Yeah, so it would be 0, 180 is pi, and 360 is 2 pi, and divide them all by 3. And that should be your answer.
Oh, okay.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any others? 24. Is that a good one? Is that an inverse one? Okay, sine, is this the right one? Inverse cosine of negative root 3 over 2? Okay. Cosine. Okay, first off, where is cosine defined? Remember suntan at the beach? Where's the inverse cosine defined? Right half or top half? Top half. Another way to think of it is it can't be this half because this half cosine's positive, cosine's positive. Okay, so it has to be the top half. It's negative, so it's going to be in quadrant 2. Let's find our reference angle first. Cosine of what angle is root 3 over 2? 30 degrees?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Oh, you are correct, because then 30 degrees in quadrant 2 is what?
Yeah.
150. And then you find sine of 150 degrees. What is sine of 150 degrees? You have your, what is it? And it's positive, right? Because sine is positive in quadrant 2. Does that make sense? Yes?